What we are doing starts from the consideration that the major unresolved issue in cancer biology remains the inner ability of malignant tumor cell to disseminate, to acquire capacity of migrating, of becoming motile entity that move from the original site where the tumor has grown to disseminate to distant site, generating what is defined as metastasis. Once this has occurred, we all know that the tumor becomes almost untreatable with the current therapeutic strategy and becomes the problem to solve, particularly for these late-stage malignant tumors. So what we are trying to do is to try to understand basic mechanisms that are acquired during the progression of malignant tumors that makes them able to constantly disseminate and deal with the variety of obstacles that our body puts in place in order to confine the tumor growth to a specific site. What we have learned in the last couple of decades is that tumors actually, unfortunately, utilize a variety of different mechanisms to move within our body. The traditional view that indicated that the tumor acquires, for instance, mesenchymal property to disseminate has been challenged because tumor not only disseminate by separating from the tumor mass, but sometimes they like to travel in groups, they maintain cell-cell interaction, they do not undergo a canonical transition toward the mesenchymal state, which is generally considered as the migratory state, and that enables entire tumor cohort to disseminate in order to reach either the lymphatic or the blood vessel, which really represent the major highway through which long-distance dissemination can take place. The whole problem is complicated by the fact that as it has emerged with respect to the inherent property of all tumors, tumors are extremely heterogeneous, and such heterogeneity also applies to the mode of migration. So the best analogy that always comes to mind is when we go to work. We can utilize different means of transportation. We can go by our foot, we can take a bike, we can take our public transportation. If there is a strike, we are not blocked in our ability to move from A to B. We simply utilize a different mean of locomotion. And talking about locomotion, that's exactly what tumors do. They utilize a variety of different means of moving within our body, frequently exploiting some of the physical features that the surrounding of the tumors offer to tumor cells in order to move. This later notion is actually an older notion. If you think about the way tumors were detected, they were primarily detected by touch. So tumor lumps, tumors is a Latin word that means overgrowth. It's it is applied in many different instances. The fact that we can detect it by touch indicates that tumors or tumor surroundings are more rigid. And rigidity, stiffness, is a specific physical property. So we have learned, for instance, that more rigid is the tumor environment, more malignant is the tumor. This is a very interesting concept because it implies that there is a constant interplay and crosstalk between the tumor that develops and the environment, whereby the tumors constantly modify the environment. For instance, makes the environment extremely rich in collagen type of structure. Frequently, it generates what is defined as a stromal reaction. This stromal reaction changes the microenvironment, making them more rigid, and this rigidity feeds back on the tumor biochemically as well as physically, promoting its ability to disseminate. I'm stressing this point because it has become clear recently that to address these issues, which imply not only canonical genetic and biochemical experiment, but also to look at the tumor entity as such, as a group, as a whole that is in a constant state of physical interaction with its microenvironment. And when we talk about physical interaction, we talk about physical parameters like rigidity, like stiffness, like motility. And in order to be able to understand this parameter, it becomes essential to team up with expertise and people that have gained a background in canonical physics. One of these opportunity, or this opportunity, can be achieved either by each individual researcher collaborating with an expert in a different field, or it can be promoted, as IFOM has done, by fostering this type of interaction. And the way we foster this interaction has been by establishing a formal, initially, but then a scientific interaction with the institute, which was established in Singapore a few years ago, the Mechanobiology Institute, whose aim is to exactly define what are the physical parameters which allow a cell to thrive, not necessarily tumor. What are the physical interaction and properties which allow a single cell to divide, to become motile, to decide whether to move as individual as opposed as a collective entity. And in order to do that, you need to develop novel methodology, novel conceptual approach, which take into account the physical basic law. And these expertise are all present in the Mechanobiology Institute. And thereby we combine this expertise with our approach to tumor biology, where we believe we know a lot about some basic biochemical and genetic principles that drive tumor development and acquisition of its metastatic and disseminating ability, with a basic outlook where physical parameters are taken into consideration in order to explain the complexity of tumor tissues.